quite often we're programmed through, well, let's say if I've been working all week and all month to achieve certain goals, whether it's a goal in a business venture or I'm crafting something, or there's always a sense of doing something to get somewhere, to achieve something. And that's the momentum we have, which, is kind of necessary. So if whatever I'm doing, even driving a car, getting from A to B, there's always easily there's a sense of future becoming. And um, like if I have a doubt, quite often what I do with a doubt is I try to solve the problem. So if I have a doubt, I analyze it and I mm, try to figure it out. And so there's this engagement with the natural process of life to get a goal or to get rid of something that's going on now. And it's just life, isn't it? We don't live passively, we live actively. But in meditation, we're not, at least I haven't found it helpful to so for me, again, I just talk about what works for me. So if it doesn't work for you, you'll get your money back, I'm sure, or something like that. So for me, like I certainly, as a young monk, tried to attain things. I'd read about fantastic states of mind or insights, or um, just reading Longpa Liam's enlightenment piece in No Worries, in that book, No Worries. Amazing, amazing what he achieved. And then there'd be the language of jhana and the language of Sotapatti and all this kind of attainment language, liberation and nibbana. And like in the first years of Wat Nanachat, I was there the first 2 years at Nanachat. This is the first time he was uh, an abbot leading a community. And there was Lompa Pasano and Ajananando and Lompa Manindo, Lompa Viradhammo. It's very sincere and strong men, young men, quite strong and willing to work hard. And we would get up at like maybe 2 o'clock and do some really, really rigorous yoga. Lompa Sumedho was an incredibly flexible yoga practitioner for many, many, many years. So we'd be up. Some of us would be up and doing back bends, and then we'd sit for a couple hours. So we were very, very intense. And you can see after a while, Lompa Sumedho said, "Will you guys relax? We just relax." And this kind of sense of striving, and that's a young man's energy, isn't it? This is the way a young man could function. Well, I remember at Amaravati, one winter retreat, he made the theme conviviality. Conviviality is basically just being friendly. And if you listen to his teaching now, it's never about striving. It's about trusting in awareness, trusting in awareness, trusting in awareness. But if my habit is always to get somewhere, achieve a goal, then trusting in awareness is rather difficult, because the momentum of the way I make effort, the way I do things, is to conquer or to achieve. But in this way of learning to rest the mind, it's not so much an attitude of doing something about the experiences we're having, but actually it's kind of reversed, accepting or welcoming the experiences we're having. So I think all the bhikkhus now, the Western bhikkhus, we talk about open-hearted acceptance, um, welcoming. It's just a kind of language most of us use. I think all the Western bhikkhus tend to talk that way. Uh, so let's say, like physical pain is a very interesting phenomena to practice with, because physical pain, you don't want it. You can do everything you want, but to try to fix it. So in that, just as an aside, may I be excused to go to the physiotherapist this afternoon? Is everyone okay? All right. No objections from the group. So Libon's going to take me to the physiotherapist. I have some knee problems like I can't quite figure out. So I want to get some exercise, some more advice about that. So I try to do something about the physical pain of the body. But in meditation, pain is very common. And I used to just to try to sit through pain, kind of make an adhitthana and not move. Okay, I could do that. And then I'd limp away. And sometimes it's sit through the pain. You know, sometimes you read about that. They say just sit through the pain, sit through the pain. Well, for me, 1 in 20 worked. The other 19, I was crippled. Oh my, I was just hurt myself. So I could use willpower to sit through pain, but I wasn't using panya. Not that that's true for everyone. Some of the great ajahns, when we talk about sitting through pain, that's fine. But my attitude was one of willfully not moving and conquering the pain. That wasn't very good for me. So the way I'm talking about this now is can I be aware of pain as an object in awareness? And there, what is needed is acceptance. So that to me is the key, and that's where the metta bhavana comes in, where I accept into consciousness something which I don't want, I don't like. And biologically, I'm made to actually do something about the pain. Pain is a good thing. So if in a meditation you start to get some pain, you will. I hope you don't. Okay, but if for some reason you get a bit of pain, then to just see what happened. What's the attitude to the pain? Is it, oh no, here comes the pain or whatever? And what would it mean to accept the pain just as it is? Just as it is would mean to me that you'd see pain in a larger picture, that pain is in awareness, not I have pain, as opposed to pain is a dharma in the present moment. And if you learn that lesson again and again and again, then of course you have a refuge in the midst of pain. You can deal with pain, but also you start to, I think, have an intuition about how to be with emotional pain. Because emotional pain, say you feel inadequate, you feel no one likes you, you feel hurt by someone's comments, you get shamed by a public meeting, you're anxious about how you look physically, and so on. And there's so many things which are emotionally quite painful. We cover it up. We're brave souls and rah, 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 we go on, but those are very real kind of human emotions. Now, that's not who we are. I am not the sense of inadequacy or the sense of fearfulness. That's not who I am. These are natural phenomena which come from culture, which come from other things, and they arise. They stay for a while and they cease. So in the practice of anicca, when you have that perspective that this will change, if you can bring that perspective, and it's common Buddhist language, isn't it? "Ben yin shang mai ne." But you have to bring that language in. This is a phenomena that has arisen. It will change so that you become more objective. So if I should feel like maybe that no one in the monastery likes me except Bruno. Bruno's a dog. Um, and I feel very, very lonely or something like that. Socially, I might do something, but then I can, rather than going to everyone saying, "Do you like me? Do you like me? Do you like me? Am I okay? Am I okay? Am I all right?" That's fear, isn't it? But if I just feel sort of lonely and alien, I say, "Oh, Penyang Nieng," and I accept it into consciousness, and I'm just patient, and this will change. Okay, will it? Is it permanent? It's only permanent if I think about it. But if I really accept it and it cease, and I watch it, it will cease. And there is a kind of peacefulness there which is not dependent. It's not sankata, it's not constructed. It's the peace of letting go, the peace of acceptance. The other is to all like in most monks when they give a Dhamma talk, are a bit, the beginning monks giving a Dhamma talk. Mostly they're nervous and they hope they didn't make fools out of themselves. And they want to ask, "Was it okay?" So then they go, "Was it okay? Am I right? Was it? Did I say it right?" And the trouble with that is, then they have to do it again because they're anxious about what other people think of them. They they're kind of not grangei. I don't know what the word is, but they're anxious about so if I'm anxious about what other people think about me, and I'm always trying to appease them, to look good, to look right, to say the right thing, then I'm functioning from fear. Right? So if I can look at that and see how much social fear we have as human beings, how much of our life is like worried about what do they think of me? Am I okay? Am I looking all right? I think probably that's more for women than men. I think a man can be a slob and get away from it more than women, maybe. I'm not sure. But there's a lot of that sense of peer group pressure or uh, am I okay? And that is endless. There's no liberation from that. So without being a slob and without just being sort of foolish about it, to actually be in a social situation and look at the sense of insecurity, to have that practice now functioning 24/7 in all social situations. And if you feel insecure in a social situation, to say, "Oh, insecurity feels like this," to stay with the fear means what? Means that fear, which drives your personality, drives your ego, that fear now is an object, and it begins to die, begins to cease. Whereas if that fear is acted on, I'm always doing things to please you, to make sure you like me, I am not free. There's no freedom in that. Which doesn't mean I'm arrogant or whatever. So I've certainly learned that in giving Dhamma talks. So in giving a Dhamma talk, the anxiety is, I used to, it's very interesting when you're giving Dhamma talks, and you'll be giving one tomorrow night. I'm going to pick your name out tomorrow. No, I'm kidding. Um, wouldn't that be good? I threaten no, but like I noticed that in giving Dhamma talks, I used to look, right. I'd always look as I'm talking and say, "Who's uninterested?" And then if someone's falling asleep or uninterested, I focus on them and talk really vigorously because I wanted them to like me. And that was really interesting. And then I'd say, who am I? it was usually the young ladies I wanted to like me and older men like my father. So I'd see someone that looked like Moses or God or an older man, and I want why do I care about what this person if they fall asleep or not? And that was my own social anxiety, right? I want to be liked, I want to be popular like anyone else. And I could actually see that. Oh. So then I just stopped looking at people that aren't interested. And I just look at people that are interested. I just changed my methodology. That was much, much easier. But it was kind of odd. And that was so deep in me, so deeply ingrained to want people to like me and to want people to approve and to be afraid of criticism. And I think we all have a lot of that. I mean, it's because we're social beings. So so feedback from people can be very good, but not from fear. You want to be functioning from fear. And what we can do about that is you can't get rid of it, but you can let it cease. You can't get rid of these things because they're the what we this concept of anusaya. Anusaya is in English we translate it as latent tendency. In other words, a tendency it's a bit like vipaka karma, but vipaka karma sometimes gets defined as past lives, so that sometimes is confusing. But it's a psychological tendency that is latent. It's there, available, gets triggered, and then arises as kilesa and asava. As asava is when it kind of flows outwards. So, like in the texts, they say a monk will only face the kilesas related to fame when he's famous, right? So a monk isn't famous, and then all of a sudden becomes famous. All of a sudden, the ego has a potential to feel superior, whatever. The kilesa, like for me, the kilesa of related to social anxiety didn't arise when I was on my own. I love to be on my own. Guess why? Because it was comfortable. Huh? So then I'm okay, no problem. I'm all right. And then, so this is anusaya. It comes out from the subconscious some way. It gets triggered by situations. So it's dependently originated. Ida pachayata. With this, there's that. The arising of this, there's a rising of that. When it's not there, when there's not this, there's not that. So I'm in a public situation, I might feel anxiety. I'm not in a public situation, I don't feel anxiety. So that anxiety, and this is how we teach anatta, that the anxiety, in this case, as an example, the anxiety feels like a person. It is me who is now feeling anxious, but people will say, well, it's anatta, who's experiencing this? We say, it's paticca samuppada. It's idapachayata. It's the structure of nature with this as condition that arises. When there's this, there's that. When this is not, that is not. With the cessation of this is cessation of that. So I go into a social situation and something arises, anusaya, and a sense of a person maybe arises with that. And if I believe in the sense of a person, that's attachment. But it's really all just natural consequences, causal consequences, cause and effect. What is not cause and effect? What is not causally conditioned? And that is the knowing. Because I can know that I'm feeling comfortable in my kuti, and I can know that I'm feeling anxious in community, maybe as a coarse example. But the knowing isn't causally conditioned. It's not constructed. And that's what this is talking about. So when you're in a situation where social anxiety, as an example, it might be many things, it might be loneliness or whatever, when something is triggered and you emphasize trust and awareness, you're trusting in the unconditioned, the unformed, the unborn, the element of peace. That's where peace is. But the experience itself is still uncomfortable because it has Vedana. And Vedana is the feeling of pleasant and unpleasant. So the Vedana of fear is unpleasant. The Vedana of solitude, in my case, was pleasant. So then when the Vedana of fear comes up in a social situation, what comes with it very quickly is tanha. I don't want this. I'm going back to my kuti, thank you very much. But then if I do that, I think I should be a hermit. Hermit practice is really good. I'll probably become really neurotic. So I'll just keep running back to my kuti because that's comfortable. So bye. No problem. Bante, would you like to give a talk? How many vassa you have? I have 60 vassa. I'm afraid to give a talk. Not a good idea. So rather than take that, be a hermit, run away from the fear. No, go into the fear. Go into the fear and, fear feels like this. And look at the tanha. So then there's the fear, which is the anusaya in this case. And the fear is not the problem. It's the tanha and upadana. And that's how Paticca Samuppada talks about it. So the anusaya, the latent tendency, this comes up and there's Vedana and it feels uncomfortable. And that's where I have to say, I don't want this. It feels like this. It feels like this. It feels like this. I have to be aware of it. And if I don't create a person around it, if I don't think as a person, then that anusaya goes away. It has no more fuel. It's no longer fed. And the mind is liberated from both tanha and the tendency towards fear. You see what I mean? So I don't know what packages you have to face as a human being in society, but I suspect we've all got similar stuff. It might be that you have a short fuse, you get angry very easy. Maybe you eat too many potato chips. I'm not sure what you do. Like let's say, like I often talk to. It's not uncommon for me to talk with people who have had child abuse. And that is tragic. It's so tragic how people get messed up. And so there's one person I've talked to, and I've mentioned this before, but so her way of dealing with the anusaya that comes from child abuse or the latent tendency of self-hatred, very tragic, very powerful. The self-hatred that comes from that horrible situation, what does she do? She compensates with food. So she compensates, tries to drown this feeling with food. So she goes to a therapist and she works with it. It's a very difficult anusaya. It's not an easy one, very complicated, but she's very clever. So she puts on her fridge, the answer is not in here. In other words, it's not another sandwich or another whatever. And she wants to open the fridge and run away from the feeling of horror that she has. She goes and she meditates with it, or she works with it in whatever way she has to. That's a very extreme example of anusaya, how that happens. And we get conditioned. We get conditioned by society, by family, and then from before, I don't even know how it works. You don't have to figure that out. So when anusaya arise, when these things arise, they are a chance for liberation, but they require a lot of patience. And I think just the wisdom to know that your refuge, your to trust in awareness, rather than trust in the Vedana tanha structure of what's coming into the mind. So if like let's say a senior monk is when I started to be a senior monk, I started to be a senior monk when I was a junior monk, actually. I never understood. It was never fair. But but I found that when I became the senior monk, like say in New Zealand, so I'd be the senior monk, be the abbot for 8 monks, and I was only like 12 vassa, and very green, and lots of anusaya and kilesa to work through. What came out was my inner Hitler. You guys have to obey me. I am the abbot. And then I see this coming out of me, like the policeman and the tyrant. I said, oh, that's horrible. So then I try to suppress it. Say, oh, I love you guys. You guys are great. But actually, I was very confused. So what's going on? And I worked with, I said, that's how my fear is operating. My fear operates as the inner tyrant. And I had to be in that situation, I think, to understand that. So the suffering was very complex. And then, oh, wow, here comes the inner tyrant. Here comes the policeman. Don't go there. It feels this way. It feels this way. And then I'd go there and I'd be the policeman, and I'd criticize someone. And then I'd say, oh, that was a mess. And I'd go back to my kuti. Then I'd feel guilty, right? Oh, may I be well, may I be well, may I we be well. And then it would come up again. It was really difficult to learn to be a leader in a community from compassion because of things like fear, and then the overlay of fear of being aggressive and da 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 da. But how else am I going to learn? Just through life circumstances. I think there's a story where, if I'm not incorrect, where early on a Samanera with Luang Cha takes a kettle of water and just pours it into his mouth, which is gross, right, in Thai culture. And I think Luang Cha really blasts him, and the Samanera leaves and never comes back. And he said, okay, that didn't work. When can I be powerful? When can I be compassionate? And so on. So Pit Pin Kru, mistake as teacher. But if you're not just if you're working at an inner level, not just the social level, you're really honest with your own fears and you're getting in touch with them, then these situations are liberating. You learn from them, and the anusaya they just get extinguished. So when we talk about extinguishing or cessation, we're talking a lot about the kilesa, the fears and the angers and the arrogance and all of that. But it will come up. That stuff will come up. So that the skill is you can't prevent it from coming up unless you live in a cave. And if you live in a cave, you'll probably hate the bats or something. So they will come up, and that is not the problem. It's the attachment. It's the understanding of attachment, and that comes up through thought. The attachment might be, I hate myself for this. I shouldn't be this way. It might be distraction, many ways. But if you're honest and you have the sense of body awareness and awareness of the mood of the mind, then you can endure it. And as you endure it, help Penyang Niyang, trust in awareness, trust in awareness, trust in awareness. Then you start to realize the peace of the mind. Not because you've gotten rid of anything, but because you've let go. And that's how letting go works. That's the theory. The work is the work. So let's do some meditation. Maybe I'll just do a bit of Anapanasati, not much, just to get an idea of how to do Anapanasati from that sense of spaciousness. And then if you don't find it helpful, then just let it go. Do something else. Do what you find helpful. So listen to sound. Let the sounds come to you. So a kind of receptive awareness. So notice a way of mindfulness where you're not trying to find anything, just the way things are. It doesn't matter which sounds are here, what the quality is. So acceptance and a kind of receptive quality, of letting things come to you rather than you going out to the sounds. So welcoming, receptive awareness as an attitude. In the same way, whole body awareness, let the bodily feelings and sensations become conscious. So when I do that, I have the contact points, my feet. I've got a bit of a headache, that comes up. Whatever. So there's the same receptive awareness, whole body awareness. And notice that in this, I'm not trying to achieve anything. So I call that non-becoming. I'm not trying to be or get anything else, non-becoming. And then I'm not trying to get rid of anything. So I call that non-resistance, acceptance. So non-becoming, it's like this. Non-resistance, welcoming all things. And then just the clarity of presence. I know that I know. So I start by establishing the right attitudes. Then I want to localize my attention on the breathing, maybe. So I like to feel the breath at the chest. So then I just localize my attention and feel the rising of the chest and the falling of the chest. And this is in awareness. My face is relaxed, not tense, trying to see something. And the flow of breath is in awareness. And then I just try to relax with that flow of in, flow of out. I use the out breath a lot just to let go. In breath, I fill up the body with energy. So I use the localizing attention on the breath to sustain these attitudes of non-becoming, non-resistance, and clarity of presence, one breath at a time. So it's a pleasant thing, and the pleasantness of an out breath, pleasantness of welcoming an in breath. And then with the thinking mind, I just have to keep awakening to the pleasantness of an in breath and an out breath, and be patient with the thinking mind. So there's an acceptance of that too. Thought comes and goes in awareness. This is happening in awareness. Patience is needed. Use the end of the out breath to really relax. Don't rush the in breath. And this is taking place in awareness.